looks like we're all set. Right, and we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District on October 8th at 6:01. Call the roll. I am Karen Morgan, present.
Dave Wakeman, present.
Art Martinez present.
Roger Wendell, present.
Randy Little, present.
We have a quorum. Thank you all. Are there any disclosure matters tonight?
I do have a question concerning that. We ask that every meeting. What does that actually mean? What is the opportunity for to disclose what?
If you've developed a financial interest in the district, or if you have another conflict that you need to
You
disclose.
took a bribe.
But it's
Yeah,
limited,
Friday.
it's limited to that though. Okay, all
More or less, yeah.
right, thank you.
That means you gotta give up your bribes.
Oh,
As long as you declare.
Are there any changes to the agenda? I would like to move to switch the executive sessions around and do the Big Sky summary first, because I think that will be the shorter session tonight. And then do the Pet Center development. Anybody have a problem with that? All right, is there a second for?
I've seconded.
Director Wendell seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
I talked to Andrew, and I'll just text them a few minutes before, and it'll be ready.
Then we are on to public comment. We have public comment for 5 minutes per person. We will start in person. Nothing? All right. Online, if you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. Hey, oh, Ludmilla. Please go ahead.
I'm a little slow tonight. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Good evening, members of the board. Miss Morgan, good to see you this evening. Hello, Mr. Weichman. How are you feeling? Mr. Wendell, are you becoming a regular accountant?
Trying to.
Mr. Little, I don't know what to say. Mr. Mr. Martinez. I'm
Yes.
impressed you're not late today.
No, made it on time, early actually.
Hello, Dylan. Hello, Josh. I don't see Sam. Is Sam there? Hi, Sam.
here.
Where are you at? All right, I don't have much to say. I know that's surprising, but I thought if I didn't say something, you all might think I was mad at you. But here I am. I do want to comment on the special meeting we had the other day. There was just one thing I thought needed to be addressed. We had this wonderful man trying to give his report from Tri-Hydro, and everybody kept interrupting him. I thought, let him give his report and then ask questions and make the comments. He just looked like he just wanted to get that damn report through, get it over with. And then I thought that was a little rude to keep interrupting him, but that was my opinion. Anyway, then this one I didn't even write down, but I looked at the agenda, and you want to change the meeting to 6:30. Now, if you guys aren't long-winded, that'd be wonderful. And it doesn't go to 11 or 12, but I like the 6 because you guys get long-winded and then we're sitting up till midnight. So 6 is good. If you're not long-winded, 6:30 is good, better, because I like 6:30 starts, but then you get long-winded and then we're up too late. Come on, think about it. Anyway, nothing else to say. I'm a little tired. I've been busy this week and it's only Tuesday. Everyone take care. Have a good meeting. Until next time, good night.
Thank you. Anybody else online? Okay, I don't see anybody else. So we are closed public comment. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Do we have those printed anywhere?
Yes.
Can I take a look? Does anybody have, um, any discussion about that? Minutes,
Did you have a discussion?
yes.
Not these particular minutes, but the minutes before. I noticed, that Dave Wickman's name was spelled a couple times wrong. W-E-I instead of I-E. Anyway, his name was spelled wrong. That should be corrected. And also the address of the car wash was like on Evans, blah, 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 Evans Street, and it's on Alameda Street. So that should be changed to Alameda Parkway, and that's all I had.
Right. Did you notice if those changes were made?
They weren't,
They were not.
they haven't been made yet.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you locate and
I will, like I said, I was tied up again.
do you want to look and we can make an amendment right now before voting them in, or do you want to not?
I'll do it later.
Okay,
I'll contact. Sorry, I'm not set up right now for that.
okay.
I don't have the minutes in front of me, in other words.
All right, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that then? Did you just have spelling mistakes?
Yes, the two,
Okay. Okay, so we can approve.
we can prove that the changing the minutes, the right spelling of Dave Wickman and.
Okay.
The critical thing is that address. Yeah, the address on Alameda. Yeah, car wash had the wrong address.
Yeah. That was on this first set, I want to say um. Here,
If you have it right there, then that's fine, we can,
11907 West Elm Parkway.
yeah, there's no way on park.
I'm worried about that too, but you didn't bother to look it up. Does anybody know what the address is?
11907 West Alameda.
11907 West Alameda.
And I'll reach out to the minute takers again to see if they can fix their template. Do you have the correct spelling? I know we've addressed it before. but-
Yeah, I was gonna say, we were doing it fine there for a while, but ever since I'm no longer the secretary, then. Very bad. Like, that's the way.
They are, it is spelled here under attendance correctly everywhere.
It's the very last.
It, IE or EF?
Correct as I,
Okay, they're all IE and the very last one,
the very last minutes, whatever that is.
yeah, it's been corrected.
There may be instances
Inside
inside
it.
of body that have.
All right, yeah, there's one. Okay, so we can change that later.
Okay.
Director Martinez, you have something?
No,
No, okay. Is there? I move to accept all of the minutes, including the address change on the August 13th minutes to Alameda Parkway. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Wickman, IE. Seconds. Any further
Second.
discussion?
No, well, he seconded it.
I motioned, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous approval. Thank you. And please go back to him to sign. Financial matters. Director Wendell.
Yes, and Doug has given me, Doug's our accountant, by the way, for those newly initiated. And he's always given me ample opportunity to look over the balance sheet and other financial reports. And I can report to you with confidence from what I see here. Our house is in good order. We have certainly a surplus we've been blessed with. Few $1 million in the black, so that's always encouraging. And that's been the case for the couple of years I've been on the board. But there's that. Something that caught my eye, and again, this is not a veiled criticism or complaint. It's an observation of how things are. For our monthly activity for September and October, thus far, we've paid out about $137,000 in legal and attorney fees. And that makes sense for what we've been involved in. But I dug a little bit deeper, not too deep, and learned that over the past 12 months, just for your information, again, not complaining, not encouraging this either, but we've spent over $650,000 in legal and attorney fees over the last 12 months. And there's just a small piece of that as an example. A special meeting 2 weeks ago cost us well in excess of $4,000 just for that meeting. I just think it's something we should be mindful of, not to discourage us from these kinds of activities. But just a reminder, nothing's free.
Which meeting was that?
I'm sorry, the special meeting 2 weeks ago.
We try hydro
We try hydro, yes.
So you were there, but,
and.
The other two lawyers.
The two lawyers.
oh, and two more. 3 lawyers.
So just for information purposes, and I'm not gonna beat this dead horse each meeting, but I like the idea of going through the financials and picking out things that are at least of interest to me, that I think may be of value to the public. All of this information is available in the board packet each month, and it's also available online. So there are no secrets, but it may be a surprise because most of us generally don't read these things. But in a nutshell, we're in pretty good shape at the moment. I appreciate all the hard work Doug puts into this kind of thing, and we're good to go.
Excellent. So would you like to move for?
I move that you accept my findings and the report.
Second,
Second by Director Martinez. This is for the daily monthly operating expenses, capital expenditures, and unaudited financial investment report. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thank you all for working on it. Managers report?
Looks like we got,
Oh, no, we still have to do.
yeah.
How could I skip the budget? A reason for that, I'm sure. Pull up a chair someplace?
Here,
You,
yeah, you can see me.
you are welcome.
So, presented was the 2025 draft budget. In that budget, it displays the 2023 actuals, 2024 approved budget, and the 2024 projections, as well as what is being proposed as the 2025 draft. Main points of this presentation were the increase in Denver Water. What they are proposing to their board was a volumetric rate increase of 3.67% or 18 cents per thousand gallons on our master meter rates. The service charge that is applied to us as well is a 1.29% increase, which would be $162.90 per month increase to what already exists. This draft just shows us passing those costs into our water rates. That would mean a increase per tier of 1.96%. Metro Water Recovery, they treat all of our sewer, take all of our sewer flows. The cost for 2025 would be a 5.4% increase. The average rate of the Green Mountain Water or sewer charge rather, would need to increase 4.3% to cover that cost. Also presented in the draft was a proposed 1.6% increase to the overall employee salary, taxes, and benefits. Included in that percentage is the cost of living increase, addition of a performance bonus pool at discretion of management, and a 5.5% increase to medical and dental premiums paid by the district. Main increases in our fixed costs for supply and service vendors. Contract labor shows an increase, mainly due to asphalt patching for main breaks, valve repairs, that sort of work, rising costs in that field, as well as materials. Miscellaneous contracted labor, we have plans set to have not always doing this type of work, but having contractors come in and do valve replacements and hydrants while our crews are concurrently doing the same kind of thing. Mindset behind that is to get more done in the year and not bog down more of district staff. Solely. Also, traffic control, due to the increase in major roadway maintenance and repairs, it's necessary to have traffic control out there, and that's having flaggers, they put out the cones and put together a traffic control plan that's submitted to the city like before work begins. As far as district repairs and maintenance, the major increase you'll see there, replacement pump starts, replacement slash backup pump starts for each pump station. They're very important for the operation of the pumps in those stations, and current lead time, if one goes down, is 8 to 10 weeks. While they're down, we have to supplement with other pump stations to keep up with the demand. Office expense shows an increase, obviously, because of the 2025 regular election. Those services, the main bulk of that cost is due to printing mail ballots. So that's the printing and postage for those. The last election was 2023. We sent out 25,000 ballots, and that cost alone was 65,000. The rest of that cost is for having our DEO, that's the designated election official, perform the services of doing the nominations, validating all voters in the district and district boundaries, that sort of thing. So that's why that shows a large increase. I believe this is still there. Haven't heard 100%, but in the lobbyist expense, we show an increase. That was for the purpose of protecting special district interests. I'm sure there'll be discussion on that and whether that is a for sure number in the 2025 budget or not. So with all these costs increasing, that forces the service rate to increase by 8.26% or $1.45 per month in that service fee to cover those costs. With that cost applied, the monthly service fee would be $19 a month. And to give a little bit of perspective, Denver Water is currently proposing theirs to be $19.06. So
How much is ours currently?
ours currently is $17.55. Moving on to interest revenue, sure everyone's seen that the Federal Reserve has already began cutting rates. Our investments in the pools of CSAFE and Colorado Trust are pretty directly related to those cuts. We stay almost in line with the percentages that the Fed puts out there. So at the end of 2025 or 2024, excuse me, we're looking at 2025 rates are projected to be between 3.25 and 3.5, and we're currently at 4.75 to 5%. So that's why the budget is showing a decrease in that income. For those 2025 capital expenditures, for the fuel and equipment, we're requesting a sewer bypass pump. We currently don't have one. If any kind of emergency happens, we would have to rent that. The main reason we're asking to have one on site and on hand is if an emergency happens middle of the night, you're not going to get that equipment promptly. So having that on hand and also having the ability to use it for normal maintenance and God forbid, just sewer backups in residential areas, it would be very helpful to have that on hand. From the shop, get it and start pumping to alleviate that liability. The other major item was a replacement skid steer. The one we currently have is over 20 years old. Our vendor has said that they don't even make parts for it anymore. So if it goes down, it is out. And the replacement cost for that compared to renting and leasing is quite an advantage in purchasing. Karen, you had requested business cases on this. Tyler and Jim were preparing them, and we'll have them available for the next draft. And if you'd like, you can send them out prior to the draft, just as a subtle.
That Tyler you mentioned, is that the one on the phone?
I believe it could be. A lot of Tylers out there. As far as office, we are scheduled to replace the server for 2025. The current server has reached the end of primary use and will now be used as the replication server. Just to keep us up and running since we are not cloud-based at this point. Just haven't seen it to be cost effective at this point. It's very expensive to move servers to the cloud-based domain. The trucks that are being requested to be replaced are following our vehicle equipment, can't think of the word, I'm sorry. The vehicle replacement schedule. Thank you. So we have 3 trucks that are ready, to be replaced due to age and mileage. Replacing them now allows for better trade-in value, and the mileage that Tyler has set on those keeps us more than likely from doing costly repairs, such as, drivetrains use and that sort of costly ones. The major thing in capital would be projected replacing a 5,400 linear feet of water mains and 9,400 feet of sewer mains to be rehabilitated. That is based on, the draft budget was based on no increases to rates directly to capital costs or adding a fee. Those were in the scenarios that were presented as well. But that would allow that much footage of each to be replaced. And we did have one carryover project, and I am going to change the wording on it since that has changed. It's labeled as ravine crossing, but it will be the wastewater pipe support structure. Big change that has moved around a bit. But that is the only carryover project from 2024 to 2025. So all of that being said, the average residential winter bill would see an increase of $6.14 per bill, or 4.35%. Average residential summer bill would see a $9.15 per billing increase, or 3.06. So that is the overview, and ready for any kind of discussion.
Okay, let's go, quick question, come on talking. I was watching the news recently. There's a new law about lead has to be removed from all pipes. I think we've asked this question before. We don't have any pipes that got any lead. It's not gonna affect us whatsoever.
We do not.
Okay, confirming that again. Then there was a cyber crime. American Water Company got hit by some cyber criminals. I think we've talked about that before. Are we feeling that we're secure?
Yes, and we're actually finalizing a bunch of new cybersecurity policies. We have a consultant cybersecurity firm that we're working with that's drafting and helping Jesse go through all of that for moving forward. So we have FMA authentication, we have very locked down servers as of right now.
And then on, you mentioned refurbishment, was the term? Oh, those linear feet that we're talking about replacing, is that all infrastructure? It's worn out and it needs to be replacing? Or is it something else and we still have to replace it when it's old? Or are we talking about two things at the same time?
It's just a different method of replacing the infrastructure. When you have to dig up and replace sewer, it's extremely costly with all the bypass pumping and.
Might as well do everything else
Yeah.
while you're at it.
This way, it's like a quarter of the cost, and the manufacturers that are approved, they have a service life of roughly 50 years on their product, so it's. You're using the existing hose pipe that's there as kind of your strength piece. This rehabilitates the interior wall, gets rid of any root penetrations, any sort of voids, cracks, breaks. It just fixes all that and is done in a fraction of the time and fraction of the cost.
And is that, it sounds like the answer is yes, that's the replacement that we know we need to be doing.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have replace twice or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay, sounds like a good idea.
Alright, so that's the sewer rehabilitation.
That was
Water would be replacing.
Water is replacing it. So as far as I know right now. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we might say this over, we threw out different words, and that's what threw me off. Rehabilitation, I heard that word, and is that the, again, I'm going back to reserve, replacement of things that need to be
Yes, for the sewer.
for the sewer, but water be different.
Correct. Water is what we implement here as a remove and replace. So they actually put out temporary water services. The customers get connected to a temporary water line while the line that's in the ground is ripped out. A new one gets laid in the exact same spot it was in. And then the services get transferred to the new main once it's been tested in.
So that's still replacing. And theoretically, the new line's good for 50 years.
Are you digging up that water line or are you, what would you say, stretching it through the ground?
We're not, well, that's what I think you're thinking of is like pipe bursting. We are not, we've done a couple case studies on pipe bursting, but as of right now, we're just installing.
So my question, of course, as you can tell, I'm focused on this future replacing 60 years worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. The other thing that's coming up is like, well, are we gonna need bigger lines to handle stuff from the Fed Center and stuff like that? Is that somehow included in all this?
Right now, not as far as infrastructure replacement, but we are doing engineering studies and modeling to refine our capacity studies and know what we currently have as far as our D over D of 0.7 and where we have areas where that's a potential.
Okay, because the logical thing is you don't want to replace something that's good for another 50 years and then realize, oh, we need a larger size. So you kind of do it all at once.
Correct.
Right, and the majority of the water replacement projects that we're doing this year are running through neighborhoods where upsizing would not be an advantage. And the sewer projects that we're lining are sewer lines that are running through easements underneath, through backyards, those type of, positions. And are not main trunk lines that would potentially need to be upsized.
Yeah.
But that's a factor that we weigh in when we are planning a replacement, that if there is any value in upsizing a line, we will look at that one.
Okay. Because those are two things that's concerning me. Is number one, we need to replace all this 60-year-old stuff and we need to plan for that. And second, we got new stuff coming up, we need to upsize. And so they all need to be coordinated and consistent, compatible, et cetera, et cetera. Okay,
Yep, and the sewer that we are proposing and the water are some of the oldest in the district, so.
and when we were talking about, the Fed Center needing their stuff, I was asking that we do a study to figure out what we need for our facilities for the next, year. And we're still gonna be doing that,
Yes.
and that incorporates these things that I'm bringing up.
What effect does rehabilitation have on the capacity of a sewer line?
Well, it depends on really what it was laid at. It does decrease the internal diameter by just a tiny little bit, but it also increases the velocity at the same time, so it's kind of a wash.
Do we still have any clay pipes in,
That's where the majority of our district is clay.
is it? Okay.
And they're being replaced with plastic.
They are being lined, so the rehabilitation part, that's on the sewer end. That thick walled vitrified clay pipe acts as a host. The liner goes through, it gets a little balloon, kind of presses it against the interior pipe, UV cure, hardens, and it's good
So
for.
that's obviously a cheaper way than digging it all and putting it all over.
Yeah.
But of course, you're probably losing some of your capacity,
You lose a little bit of the interior diameter,
just a little.
just, I think it's, most of them are spec'd at like 3.5 to 4.5 millimeters, so it's very small amount, but you are also increasing the slickness of the interior of the pipe, so the water's traveling a little bit faster, so it's kind of a wash as far as
Okay.
BOD loss versus the velocity of the flow.
And it's far cheaper than digging it all up and replacing it.
And we haven't scheduled any pipe for lining that is anywhere near being a capacity concern.
Utilizing our model and GIS, and things like that to help us map out where our year-to-year replacements are going in. We also got information from the city of Lakewood, which we haven't had for many, many years, as to what they're doing in 2025. So we're coordinating our pipeline replacements with their street rehabilitation, so that we're not gonna go dig up a road that they just replaced.
They did this in my neighborhood. It was really interesting to watch them do it. And they came in, relined all those pipes and,
Yeah, very effective product.
they're done. Pretty cool.
It's been around a while, this process. It's been proven to be very effective.
Yeah, they've definitely refined it over the years as well, which is a lot more companies involved, so that helps everybody.
We're hearing about it years and years ago.
Well, those are my questions. I have some suggestions, but it's time for somebody else to speak up. Me monopolize the floor. Yeah, come on.
Any questions? I guess you can feel
I
free,
guess
want
I
to get
can
back?
go ahead and get them back on the floor. I did talk it over with the guys, but, things that, what I'm thinking of is I would like to reduce the service fee. 'Cause I think that really annoys people. And right now, we're at 17.55, and we're looking at going to 19. I would like to drop that down, but I don't know what the effect is. That's what we're talking about, getting on a spreadsheet and see. Punch in a number and see what the effect is. So I don't know. But my goal would be to try to reduce the service fee down a little bit. And then in return, we add a new fee, and that's that infrastructure maintenance fee. And I would like to kind of see that as $10 or more. And, was that my only thought? Those are the two biggies. Oh, the bit about we take out or we expense part of our salaries against water and sewer. And so I'm thinking, why don't we up that a little bit? Take a little bit more out of water and sewer towards, because right now it's like 12.5%. And so I was thinking, why don't we take that to 15%, maybe 20%, maybe 25, I don't know what the effect is, whatever those numbers are. And so the result would be water and sewer would be a little bit higher, but service fee would be a little bit lower. And then we've got the infrastructure bringing in new monies for the future. And so I'm thinking on the one hand, we would have more money overall, but I think it'd be a little bit more palatable to our constituents. Because I think they recognize the fact that you have older infrastructure, you have to replace it. And right now, that whole concept is kind of hidden inside all the other fees. And we just bring it right out and say, hey, you know, we have to have a certain fee for replacements. I think they'll be fine with that, especially if we reduce some things somewhere else, i.e. the service charge or the service fee or something like that. So it kind of looks like a trade-off. We're still on the upside, but it's instead of wasting money on service fee, it's like, what the hell is that? Instead, it's going for infrastructure replacement, stuff like that. I think people would get their head around that a lot easier. And then that would give us an opportunity to bring in some additional revenue while still being sensitive to the needs of the customers. Those are my two thoughts. I'll say you're free then. Correct me.
I'm not, you had a lot of suggestions in there for two thoughts. The way that it's set up now, I'm hearing. Tell me what your main goal is. Because the structures of the fees, the service charge. And the volumetric fees, the rates. All cover different expenses. So if we were to reduce one, it's not I mean, you're not trading off by putting in a new fee. This was. Because one doesn't pay for the other. So. It's a whole big different calculation is my first thought. Let me stop there. Am I understanding that correctly, Doug? Do you have anything to say to that?
Well, yeah, like Mr. Rickman was saying, by taking some of the fixed costs that are covered by the service fee out of that calculation, you can lower the service fee, depending on the percentage. I did run the 15% for each one, and that'd only be a 55-cent decrease from what we proposed in this budget. So it still have to increase from last year.
I'm sorry, stop there. What is the 15% of what?
50% of employee costs in water and sewer,
15%?
15 per water, 15 per sewer. So then the service fee covers 70.
Okay,
That difference from what currently now is 75,
yeah,
that would equate to a 55% less increase than is proposed here. But it would still increase from 2024 to 2025. But that being said, the water rates would have to go up an additional 4% of what was presented, and sewer would be an additional 6%. So yeah, very small changes.
I'm thinking the overall effect is not a dramatic change. What would be a dramatic change is the infrastructure maintenance fee, that would be a new thing. But the other things are just tinkering to make it all look more palatable.
yes, but we sacrifice the employee safety when you do that. That is why it's there, and that was kind of a big battle. So the service cost, everybody understand, maybe Doug would be better to explain that, is my understanding that the service cost is a flat fee, fixed cost, so that you are guaranteeing that the employees are paid. That fee covers 75% of the employee's costs. So by not having it tied to the water cost by volume, should you encounter a drought and you're not paying any water prices that year, because we're not in water, sewer, whatnot, the employees still get paid.
Yeah.
That was a battle at one point in order to make that happen. So this is just a little bit of guarantee. So I'm not willing to sacrifice the employee safety for a couple cents of making things palatable, especially since the service charge is pretty standard around. I don't know if you needed to, if people don't understand what a service charge is or an administrative fee is. I mean, I think that's pretty standard, but I mean, we can call it something else for, you know, that's the big thing that it covers, I think, and I like that safety mechanism in there. Am I understanding that correctly?
What else does this cover?
Yeah, it covers all the fixed costs, so legal fees, utilities, the lobbyists. I can actually list everything if you like.
The fixed cost that we will have to pay no matter what.
Yeah, so office expense, contract repairs, district repairs, office and grounds, insurance, automobile, meter repair and supplies, locates all the way down to director fees are all included in that field that the operations fee covers.
The 12.5%.
No, 12.5% is in the water rates and then sewer rates. This is
Oh,
the 70% of employee cost is along with 100% of those other fixed charges are covered by the service fee.
Where's the other 25% of the employee costs come from?
It goes into the water rates, 12.5%, and the sewer rates, 12.5%.
Which changes from year to year.
So right now, we're at 17.55 for the service fee. You're proposing to go to 19. What is that in dollars? How much dollars?
$1.45 per month.
How much is that total?
A lot. As far as additional income,
Yeah, the whole budget.
well, tell you exactly. So 2024, we were budgeted at $4,041,000 for service fee income. 2025 budget, $4,377,000. So 300 and a little less, 350,000.
$350,000. So, okay. So if we kept it at the 17.55, we're shorting ourselves by $350,000.
Right, and then the scenario that you were presenting, you'd have to move that into the water and sewer to make up that income.
And I think, Dave, to be honest with you, I mean, I think people are getting wiser. They're checking their bills more. Bills are just going off the roof on everything. And so, I mean, we're gonna start getting some kickback from consumers about, what we're doing, I think.
Well, yeah, that's gonna happen. That's a given.
Yeah, I mean, electricity's going up, water's going up, everything's going up.
So my
People
thought
can't
was,
afford it anymore.
well, things are going up, and that's a given.
Yeah.
But if it's a matter of, well, water and sewer is going up, it's like, well, yeah, they go up. Why is your service fee going up?
Well, that's the biggest complaints
Yeah,
that
that's
I've heard from all the people up and down the street.
right.
What's this service fee?
Right,
That's my wages, buddy. No, I'm
Well.
just joking.
Would be a better way just to rename it and say, it's management fees, it's the fees for cost of doing business.
I get that question every time I get a bill from my wife. What is a service
Service
fee? And
fee,
she
yeah.
asks that.
And maybe a
I'm going,
description
okay,
of what
let
it
me find
covers. would be
exactly what it is.
Beneficial, because I think it's necessary, obviously.
It is, but I mean, the question's asked.
Yeah, and we get that question a lot in the office.
Yeah.
Once we give them an explanation, there's rarely a fight about it.
Yeah, they walk away with an understanding.
Yeah, we tell them, just like I listed all those costs.
But the
those are
name
covered by
change
that.
might be,
Yeah, what Karen said, maybe change the name or given a definition as part of the bill. So people can get an understanding,
I don't
what
know.
goes up. Obviously.
I don't know. Yeah, and I think that the explanation is around someplace that,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just,
we do repost it, but we can do it again.
I think it's just a matter of educating people as to what it is.
probably, I'll bet you a big percentage of people don't even look at the bill, they just pay it.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, they do look at the bill and then they have that question,
Yeah,
and that's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, those are costs are hard to argue with.
No, I agree with that, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We get that question.
okay, so. Sorry, that answered mine on this, but you had moving it around. What else did you say? You had a couple thoughts and then you wanted to move. So does anybody see a need? I don't see a need. You see a need to move it around, just leave the service fee with the proposed
I can see his point, what he's trying to do is to make
explain.
it palatable to our.
Well, I guess I'm saying don't change the fund distribution. If you wanna change the name, come up with a better name.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that would be the more
But
able way.
Think about it maybe next time,
Making
if
it
you think
palatable.
of something, but,
Good idea.
leave the money.
Have we ever had a graphic,
better
have we ever had a graphic on the website, with the little arrows pointing to the bill?
They're saying this is what it
Yeah,
covers.
but,
Yeah.
every newsletter we put out. Might have an explanation of service fee. But it has gone out, we could certainly put something on each bill, just have it printed.
And there has been changes in the past to the fee name.
Yeah, it was, prior operations fee,
Operational fees.
that was frowned upon by a prior board, we decided to go with service fee. Cost to provide service, so.
I think it went
Some
from
of
an
those history on that.
administrative fee. Or it was
Not my
suggested.
Yeah, you can put a note down that service is defined as blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, anytime, we can print little blurbs on the bills whenever.
I wonder if people are sensitive to this. We're not a taxing entity, but taxing entities are subject to Tabor, so they're always adding fees. And I'm wondering if we're getting mixed in with that somehow.
And that's part of our explanation. Every time people have questions about the service fee, we always start off with, we do not collect taxes. This is the fee to run the district. This is a brief explanation. More detail, obviously. we can
Sure.
get.
And then your other part was just getting the, infrastructure maintenance fee in.
Yeah, the fourth category.
Okay, and that I think can be done separately. I like that.
Yeah, it's separate. The first things were cosmetics.
Okay, I can't remember what the scenario was. I wanna say C. You said the $10 one. Did anybody look at scenarios, have any input on those? I was looking for, I was hoping for more. Not hoping for, I was hoping for more revenue, so I'm looking for maybe more fee on that, cause I wanted to hit that $8 million mark to get, that rolling on a 10-year schedule. So it looks like that's almost there. If I was calculating right, looks like that would have to be $12, $13 a month fee.
So each $5 brings in about.
Oh, cause it had a base of 4 million on it.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, very consistent.
Okay,
On $5 increments, it's gonna be, so $5, 1,113,000, the $10, and per month, not bill, mind you,
Right.
so $5 would be 10 months per month. $5 per month would be $10 per residential bill. The $10 would be an additional $20 per building residential.
And how many buildings we have? 5, 10, 6? 6.
So every 2 months. So that fee alone, if you went to the $20 per bill, is an $80 increase per year.
I'm really torn on this. We definitely need to get to that 8 million, but I'd rather we eased into it. I mean, it's gonna be quite a shock to have a $20 increase on top of everything else. Although we need it, I would like to avoid it if we can, start out slow.
Right.
With your little calculator, I was doing the scenarios and I came up with how much I thought was the reserves. And the highest one was scenario C at 7,367,000. But I couldn't come up with the scenario D reserves. What would, any idea what that would be?
That would be the difference between the 2025 draft budget and scenario D. So scenario D is 5.3 million. The building it into the water and sewer rates as it currently is. So subtract 5.3 million from 4.2, so it's 1.1.
How much is that in reserves?
That's adding 6.2 reserves. Bottom line.
6.2 million?
6.2, so scenario A, B, and D all have the same bottom line revenue. It's just how you get there. C was doubling that fee to $10 per month for 20 per bill. Draft budget was not doing anything additional to show that we would bring in 5.1, and that's what we'd have to do our construction projects.
Okay, I'm still lost. But when I go to the last line, infrastructure maintenance fee, easy for you to say. And as you go across, NA, then we have $5.
So go to the next page. That displays what you're wanting to see.
I don't have the next page. Well, what I'm looking for is under scenario D, this number right there, right now, it says NA. What would this number be?
That's for
Sorry, see
the,
what you're-
for the fee. You're asking for.
That's for individual bill and percentage increases. So this is the one you need to be looking at. These are the numbers you're wanting. So that is the difference in the capital reserve revenue from what was presented.
And that's how much we get.
Right, so
That's not enough.
So B, C, and D are all have that same bottom line, or no, excuse me, A, B, and D have the same bottom line. C has that
Well,
increase.
Yeah, here on this page, scenario D doesn't have infrastructure maintenance fee.
Correct. It's all built in the rates.
Okay, well, I think we ought to bill it separately as.
Well, that's why we have 4 different scenarios.
Okay, well, if we had the same as scenario C, say 2,227,000, you put that over there, then all of a sudden, instead of 6.2, now we're at 8.4.
Right, but you're increasing the water rates and sewer rates as well as adding additional fees.
I'm okay with that.
We already did, I'm not okay with that, and the reason is because we already did that this year. We increased the water and sewer rates, so that would be a double increase to the people on the rates,
I'll send you my bill.
yeah. So that
Okay,
overcharges one population versus another.
okay, what would be an alternative to get that maintenance fee or the infrastructure up higher?
Just putting on this one, on C, increasing it to 10 to 15. You'd have to change scenario C. This is the straight fee.
Okay,
You'd have to increase that. And Doug is saying $5 a month is, what'd you say, 1.1 million?
oh, okay, so instead of $10 here, make that 15,
Then 15, then it would be 8.4,
8.4 is the total, oh, well, there you go.
but $30 per bill. On top of existing charges, so.
So that's where we need to be. I think. At
Well-
$5.
What was it, where are we at with scenario C? I mean, I'm okay with that and want to go higher. Is everybody stuck at, we can't go higher than scenario C?
I am not stuck. I could go higher. The thing about it is that It is going to be, and I totally understand your point that this is going to be painful, but next year we're gonna have to increase by inflation again anyway. So it's not like we won't be not increasing. There will be smaller increases like we have been, and the more we put it off. I don't know, it just feels like dragging it out to me, because we're just gonna be playing catch up longer.
It's a good point.
Have we factored in an increase in tap fees on these budgets?
These are not presented in this draft budget.
Because I'm hoping that we're gonna raise the tap fees here in the next month or two.
Those will be part of the rate hearing, which coincides with the budget, obviously, but that's not prepared in this presentation.
So,
And those are gonna be separate. Those are gonna be separate, because you can't use. You can't increase your tap fees because you have aging infrastructure.
we can increase them. So the money would be there.
For limited purposes, yes.
Yeah. It's very tricky.
Well,
And we did just raise them, so I don't know how much they would raise again, because we did just
Well,
do that.
I think it ought to be at least inflation. In a bare minimum. But if you're saying whatever that is can't be part of the budget here, then okay. Let's try to have our budget covering, reserves in the future as much as possible, which is scenario C plus, C plus plus. And if we can't go from 10 to 15, can we go from 10 to 11? 10 to 12? 10 to 13? Say when.
Where are you guys at? Anybody have any feelings about 10? Roger, what were you thinking as your incremental?
Fine, I think
You were
you
thinking
mentioned
of
that
five.
last time. Just so I understand it correctly, though, scenario B, $5 a month, be basically a 1.8 million shortfall.
If 8 million is your goal, ultimately depends on what your goal is, yeah.
Yeah, and the goal is that was an arbitrary, but we have 10 years, that would be hopefully getting the first decade's worth of things done in one decade.
I really want to do what is reasonable and prudent. I'm not exactly sure what that is at the moment.
Mhm.
My inclination is to go with $5. I'm not trying to twist everybody's arm, but I just like the idea of kind of trying to ease into it. Reevaluate next year, but again, I don't feel confident either way.
Well, knowing, and you said you do too, but knowing that we need to be at 15. Would 10 be a middle? That's still easing into it.
That's $10 a month.
It is,
That's kind of like scenario C.
that is scenario C, but that is,
And a little more
That is easy.
perspective, sorry, so for each $5 of FB, you gain about, based on today's prices, for budgeting purposes, you gain about 2,000 linear feet of water to replace. So that's the difference between the scenario, or the draft, scenario B and C.
Well, let me clarify. I know she did have linear feet. Are you thinking in terms of that's what we absolutely have to do that year? Or in my mind, you're putting the money aside for when the time comes. And if you don't do it this year, that's okay. It's in the bank, but it's ready for when the day comes.
The way I was thinking of it is next year. Because prices aren't gonna stay that way the following year.
Yeah, I know, it's a valid point, but again, my other thought is, if the thing only lasts for 60 years and you want to replace it on the 61st year, okay, I understand it. Well, what would happen if you let it stay for another year and all of a sudden it's 62 years and 63 years? As long as it held together, then
That's
it's like,
kind of where we're at right now. We have a lot of pipes that are well past their,
right.
We're
They're
looking at 135% of their service life.
yeah, it's not just 1 or 2%. So it's starting now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not opposed to changing it, of course, but You don't have to, but anyway,
At least from an operational standpoint, the more we can replace year to year, the better.
yeah, that's obviously better, yes. But
I would probably go for 10, but does that mean next year we go to 15?
Yeah,
See, that's,
well, this would be 10, and then the next year, yeah, you'd have to do 15. I mean, you could do 12, 13, but by that time, that's what I mean, you will be adding on inflation anyway. So you have to be at 12 for inflation. So now you have to add it to 17. So you're just chasing your tail at that point. So if you could do one big lump to get most of it done, which it's going to be unpalatable that we are behind.
Could I ask Josh, how do we compare to other districts in this regard? Are they planning this well in advance? Or is everybody trying to get caught up?
You know, I really. That's a kind of a tough question. We
Okay.
haven't
Yeah,
had that
you don't-
discussion with
that's okay.
many other districts. We are starting to have those kinds of conversations now that we're, I've been meeting a lot of, excuse me, other district managers throughout the Denver metro area. So I know they are all trying to plan as far out as they can.
Sam might have an answer.
I can touch on this a little bit. I go over this a lot, in jazz conferences, talking to other districts. And it's kind of all over the place. A lot of smaller districts are very, very far behind. A lot of smaller districts are in the position that we're in, and they haven't been doing replacement projects for the last 20 years. We started our major replacement projects in 1996. So we have been more ahead of the ball than a lot of the smaller districts. A lot of the larger districts like Denver Water, large cities, they have the resources to have been more in front of it. But as far as districts, comparable size, we're more favorable than a lot of the districts that I see.
and what I've seen going on is it looks like we just pay as you go. And that's fine up until all of a sudden everything starts going all at once. And that's why this bit about, we're just paying for 1 year's worth. Well, once we get into the 65th year and 70th year, all of a sudden it's not gonna be just 10%. We got a whole large segment of the system needing replacement all at once. So like I said, I think we kind of need to get ahead of that. And what I think a lot of districts do is, rather than putting enough money away for when that day comes, they're just gonna put it off. And then when the day does come, they have to do a special assessment or bond issue or whatever. And that's kind of the difference here, is I think other people do bond issues. Well, I don't wanna go that route. I'd rather put the money away now and not have a bond issue 5 or 10 years from now.
This year is one of our largest projects we've done as far as linear feet go. We're approaching kind of what Denver Water uses for their operations. They try to replace about 1% of their system annually. We're pretty close to that right now, so that's kind of where we've been trying to get.
We gotta do more than 1%. That's not gonna cut it.
And they're
We only
pretty
have
deep
60
in,
years.
they're pretty deep in debt, aren't they?
I
think they are, but-
I can't speak to theirs.
and
Um,
water,
If I could ask this maybe of Doug. We've got a pretty sizable cash account balance that I mentioned in my little report. What if we were to reduce that in proportion or even for the whole amount? Do you have a sense of that? Or is that just a good safe?
Spend it?
Yeah,
Like right
basically,
now?
in layman's terms, spend it.
Well, you would, depends on how much you're talking here, so if we're trying to set a goal of 8 million, we spent 8 million this year. You'd still be bringing in, capital funds, capital revenue at the same time, so that wouldn't even zero out. So say we have 28 million at the end of this year, we wouldn't be at 20 million. We're still bringing in the 4 million, 5 million income. So essentially you use 3 million of it that year. So if that was your plan for 10 years, that's 30 million. We exhausted our reserves, but didn't have to increase rates at that same time.
I wouldn't want to exhaust our reserves, but were there past boards that decided on the level that we're maintaining now?
No,
It's
so
just,
this has grown quite extensively over the last 10 years.
I think we also have to grow our reserves. I mean, we've got all kinds of weird things coming up over the years. It costs money. And that money's gone.
I think we've been avoiding it for years.
The other question I have, is this money actually that you're collecting actually set aside and kept for that particular issue? I mean, you're not borrowing from that pot like a lot of governments do. They borrow this money and, oh, we'll pay it back someday, and then they run out of money and they can't pay it back.
No, our operations are, the way we've been budgeting is, we try to be as close to net zero as possible. Definitely no loss as far as operations go.
No, I'm just saying the money that the $5, $10, whatever it is it accumulating on its own little account? Or is it in the general fund? Well, we'll get to it down the road and we spend that money on something else.
And we only budget out of one general fund.
Okay,
So that should answer the question, but we aren't using that money to pay for operations, if that makes sense. So that will just build our reserve account until it is spent or.
It's accounted separately.
okay, that's.
Counted separately, but not budgeted separately. Not like we're saving this for this project in 10 years, no.
Whatever we accumulate from this, we will immediately, Josh will be saying, get an engineering plan to spend this money this year so that we can
I'm just,
put it to those projects.
yeah, just spend it and then also we don't have it.
Dave, this might be a good visualization for you. Based on the age of the pipe in the district, the dark red is pipe that is over 5 years, due for replacement.
Well, that's Randy's neighborhood, who cares?
Yeah, mine's already been replaced, so I don't know why.
Red
it's
pipe is, less than 5 years, but still due for replacement.
Well, that's my neighborhood. so-
Orange is pipe that's coming due in the next 5 years. Okay. Just to give you a little bit of a,
So all the focus should be on me.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah.
One other question for Doug, kind of related to this, the cash account balance that we have at this time, which is very healthy, and I'm glad we have it. Are we losing against inflation, even though we were getting historically high rates at 5%? It's going down to 3.25%. I think you mentioned in your report, that money sitting there, in a sense, are we losing relative to inflation? So would it be wise to spend some of it in this regard, in your opinion?
So that 3.25 number, is by the end of 2025. I'm not quite sure what inflation is at the moment. I didn't.
I'm not sure I know either.
2.2.
So
Oh, it's dropped
we're at
considerably.
4.7 right now. So no, not at the current time. If inflation stays at that rate through 2025, we'll basically be breaking even. But yes, going further, yeah, inflation's higher than the interest rates we're getting, at least on those funds. Is technically losing value, however.
Isn't that
that
what
reason-
happened? Like COVID and prior?
Oh, yeah.
We were losing relative to inflation.
Yeah, COVID was not good interest rates.
Well, when you were asking me that question about what's the interest rate, overall 2.2. But we're in the different category, construction, and in that world, I don't know what the inflation is in that world. It's usually much higher than the general.
Yeah, but just going on with dollar value reserves.
So I don't know if you understand my point. I'm just worried if we're holding this money, which is great, we've been very frugal. But is it diminishing in value because we haven't spent any of it? Not that we need to spend it, but
No, it's
maybe
a
part
valid-
of it should be devoted
It's
to
a
what we're
valid
talking
point.
about.
It's a valid point. I mean, that's very real.
I don't know.
And it does bring up a good point of, I know we kind of looked at the rates last year, which this conversation haven't had any other board meeting, but, it might be time to start looking into more long-term
Yeah.
rates
Yes.
for that very reason, because as the interest rates cut, so do those rates, but if we lock them in at the right time, we're holding on to interest that potentially be above inflation at that point. So that's something I would like to
We have not.
revisit,
We have not had any long-term investments for
but we haven't needed them
2
recently.
years. But I know, but it's
But now
just
that the
money
landscape's
sitting
changing.
there.
Yeah.
So,
That's a job for a treasurer.
Okay.
I just, on the spending down, it is a, I have talked to districts. Seems to be like that 15 million, I don't know how that got there, but I talked to somebody else who was at a 15 million mark. And we're gonna be fine, look at how much cash, we'll just raise the rates and we'll spend it down, we shouldn't need to do anything, and we do that juggle, just exactly what you're suggesting. And they bonded out 3 years later,
Okay,
Real quick.
yeah.
you've scared
If
me.
they said it went much faster than they thought it was going to.
Yeah, especially since we're up against the outer limits. we're at 60 years, going to 61, 62. Well, but the odds diminish rapidly.
I'm just toying with the idea of starting out at $5 a month, augmenting that with a little bit out of our cash reserve. And then revisiting this next year, just to ease our customers into this. $20 on an increase on a bill is a lot.
Can we
For
do that
water.
at the $10 rate? And augment up to, so that we get still
That's
the,
$20 on a building.
there's still $20 on the bill, but then we can still get a 10-year repair timeframe.
And that graphic Sam pulled up I feel a really strong, display of, we do have a lot of pipe that needs to be replaced, but we do have some that's still well within its, age of life, so that we can focus on some of those other areas, so. In essence, like a 1% is kind of a good number to at least get to, and then we can expand from there.
So you think 1% would cover what you need to take care of?
No, just replacing 1% of our system
Yeah.
as our,
Still 1%, it's 100 years to replace everything. We don't have a 100-year life.
no, but we have a lot of main that was installed in 2015 versus 1960, so that pipe isn't in the front of our mind to be on that schedule, so it's kind of just a revolving door. But getting the pipes that need to be replaced now, 1% is pretty strong.
You're always gonna have to replace pipes every year.
What 1% you are doing by linear feet, is that,
That's like 8,000 linear feet, something like that.
and
80, well, the calculation I read the other day was about 80 to 8,100 feet. And we did 72 this year. Or minus, yeah.
But that's strictly water.
Yeah, but what we're budgeting for and actually getting done, because construction is the fun part. That's kind of our target, right?
okay. I'm getting lost between a linear feet target and the dollar target. How much
Yeah.
was, what?
1% of our system is like 8,000 linear feet, so your 8 million number, that's gonna allow us to do a bunch of water line replacement and sewer rehabilitation, because we can't forget about that.
Is that about 8,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where you're thinking too.
At
We need to
today's
be at that
dollars.
8.
No, 8,000 linear feet is probably gonna be right around that 5 million, 5.5 million at what we're estimating the cost to be, about $500 a linear foot for engineering all the way through.
Yeah, so the 5 million, no.
That sounds like
The
just,
draft budget that we had presented, we had in, we had budgeted for water replacements 2.7, and that did 5,400 linear feet. So scenario B for the $5 per month got us up to 7,400. Scenario C, you just add another 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
So that's over it will be 9,400 per store. 8,000 goal.
So going back to what,
2,000 would be 7,400. You had it. And this, a scenario and this.
So just the $5 per month would
Yeah.
get you to 7,400 linear feet of
Oh,
water.
okay, I wrote down 5,400. Okay.
so going back to what Dave was saying about his, playing around with numbers. How hard would it be to raise new construction prices? Or new piping and stuff like that to counteract the older? Can we do that, or is that legal?
Sounds like you're talking about tap fees.
Yeah, they're not really related. That's something that you can think of as separate funds. So you don't.
Not so much tap fees, but the infrastructure of the pipe. You know what I mean? We get people, new construction coming in, they have no pipe in the ground. Well, they have to lay the pipe somehow, so we have to, can we raise the price of putting in that pipe?
They pay for it.
Yeah, they pay their own way, they pay for all that pipe to go in, and then they convey it to the district once it's.
So can we charge them more for conveying it to our district? No, okay, just question.
It comes to you as an asset, actually.
Yeah.
So It shows up as a positive on your books when they
Okay.
give it to you.
And generally that would coincide with getting taps, so then we're getting tap fees
Gotcha,
along with that construction.
gotcha,
And
okay.
additional service charges.
Just a thought.
How are you feeling about it? Do you have a preference on height? How are you feeling about 10 versus 5?
Well, I hate raising anything, but I would probably go 10. I mean, I'm coming from the idea that we're nickel and dime, not just us. Everybody's nickel and dime the homeowner.
Now, the numbers that you're throwing out is for the infrastructure maintenance fee.
Infrastructure
Right.
maintenance fee, and I should have said 10, because we've had 5, 10, 15.
10 is, you know, I mean, we're gonna need to do that, but like I'm saying, if everybody does, if all utilities do that and your property taxes do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just not affording their groceries anymore, or, you know, and I hate to put it that way, but, you know, there's a lot of people I have talked to that say that, geez, they're running us out of Lakewood. Well, where else do you go? I'm sure Douglas County, I'm sure Denver, everybody's doing it.
Every place is doing
And
it.
what
But you
about,
would be better at 10 than 15, because I didn't throw that.
I would be better at 10 than 15.
Just thinking out loud, scenario B plus. $6 a month and a million from our cash reserves.
I don't wanna touch your cash reserves.
What would you say B plus was,
Decent.
instead of $5 for the, would be $10.
Be $6.
$6.
$6.
Augmented with,
Right now it's $5.
yeah,
Instead of $5, $6.
$6 and then take just a little bit from our cash reserve. I'm just, you know, it's not a hill I wanna die on, people are very sensitive to these bills, and I'd like to ease them into it, we need to do it. I'm just trying to think of a painless way to get started,
It's tough.
it is tough.
Director Martinez?
Well, I'm thinking in between B and C, as it is, I don't think 10 is a little idea up there in my mind.
It is in mine too, but
It's in between B and C to get to there. I don't wanna touch the cash reserves, because that's a luxury that most people don't have.
Yeah, you're right.
You know,
You're right.
and your point about, you know, the dollar and what it's worth today versus what we're gonna, with the economy and stuff, it's a very valid point. We'd like to brought that one up, but we seem to be in a fairly good position, but that's today. Who knows what will happen tomorrow,
Director Morgan's right, that cash surplus could evaporate as it's done.
as in no time at all. I watch my checkbook do that all the time.
me too.
That was one.
It's, I can figure it out. But I'm in between B and C, someplace in between B and C. If we could reach there.
And maybe two.
$9.99?
Huh?
$9.99?
$8.
And you are in between 10 and 15, and there's one for 10. Would you be willing to go for 10? Would you make a motion? Anybody?
I'll
Well,
make a motion.
No,
this
that's
is,
right,
this
that's
is
right.
just the
It's
initial
just drafting.
presentation, yeah, so
Okay.
That's right.
you're gonna formally adopt your budget in December, so you got a little bit.
But
of
we
time
need
to
you're right,
Roll this
A
over.
consensus.
but we need a consensus word to go for the next draft. Would you be willing to approve 10? Because you're coming down to 10,
Yeah, I'm coming down, so that's fine.
and you're kind of there already.
I'm kind of going up from 5 to 10.
Yeah. All right, I'm still thinking, and you guys are
I-
not.
No, I'd go with 10, but I'd ask that we seriously revisit this in a year. I know we will anyway, but
Preliminary wise, 10 seems to be the number we're looking at on the table.
Okay, so we're looking at scenario C for the next draft.
Now scenario C becomes draft budget.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'd rather not have multiple versions.
Yes. That is fantastic. Except that is that big one. I have not done mine, so you still have multiple versions, I'm sorry. My questions on the budget, does anybody else have, that was big, you didn't, nothing else? Still, did you have anything else? Concern?
No.
I want to say thank you for putting all these together and all the scenarios, and I got more numbers wait, yesterday, was it yesterday? You did another spreadsheet on salary things, so thank you for doing all of those, and you threw out a comment about how, and I did notice, no carryover budget, plus the, what's the meter things that we've been working on for,
Oh, the transmitter replacement.
yes,
Yeah, we're down to,
Zero.
down to a handful.
Well, yeah, we have, I think, 8 left.
they're not on the budget, right, so. Finally, that is
Yes.
wonderful.
That's.
The low
Goes
carryover.
around everywhere.
Yeah, this is great. So that's the lowest carryovers that I have seen. So we are doing good. And also, thank you for coordinating with Lakewood. That'll be a big help going forward. And we have asked about that several times. So these are all big improvements to operations. And we're clearing things up. So thank you all. I wanted to ask about the employee stuff. Just, I don't know, chicken and egg. Mr. Stanley sent Roger and I some job descriptions and reorganization charts. I would like to get that built into this budget. I don't think we're there yet. We will be meeting on Friday, so if we can get it all together for a single draft, that would be great, but I don't know if that is everything in here. There may be still changes.
Well, on the subject of employee stuff, I know we debated that a lot in previous years. And my position is, I think we ought to be generous to employees. But that being said, since we've had some senior people retire, generally they're at higher salaries. And we're bringing in new people, generally at lower salaries. So on its face, that would seem to indicate that our salary situation is probably lower or more favorable or whatever, cheaper than in previous years. Is that assumption correct or not?
Yeah, we had some people retire. We did not backfill some positions, while we were working through all of this. So for what we budgeted for, we did not spend,
The new people are lower salaries.
correct.
That won't last long, but for a while, we've got a break, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, we hope they last long.
Well, we hope the employees last long, but that break won't last long. Pretty simple, I have to pay them.
Yes. Yeah, we're trying to, at least my vision is to be kind of right in the middle there tier. We're not, don't have the highest salaries, but we also don't have the lowest salaries. That way we can stay, I'm not gonna call it competitive, but keep people around so that we're fully staffed. We don't have a lot of turnover and training is.
That's my goal, is no turnover. But on the other hand, new people, we pay less than old people, because old people are valuable.
Right.
Did we get an employers council report?
Yes.
What was their number for cost of living and average?
Well, it was specific to job titles, salary survey I was looking at to create the ranges. As far as an overall, I don't think they have the 2025 one complete yet. But we can get the 2024 one over to you to show what the average was for like the region and whatnot.
Okay,
Yeah, we have
I don't think I've seen one.
Blair's Council, AWA, and then we participate with. How many were there this year? Nine?
There's maybe 10.
9 or 10 surrounding districts of somewhat equal size staffing levels. Everybody kind of just share their information on where they're at with ranges and things like that, so we can be, have a better idea of what's truly out there in our unique industry.
So what did you come up with for cost of living? How did you do that?
They just did ranges,
yeah.
current ranges. As of now, per job title, so like it did a meter reader is this amount to this amount. It wasn't, we changed from last year to this year.
You
With
put
a certain percentage. It was literally like, hey, what do you pay your employees right now?
Okay, I understand, but you did include in the budget cost of living increase.
What is the
5%.
average
5%.
wage, I guess?
But it's not, nothing is determined
Average
yet,
wage,
but with the
It's
way
completely
the job.
dependent on job.
What's the range, I should say range from $10 an hour to $50 an hour? What would you say that?
It really depends on job titles. I can't give you a range because we go anywhere from a brand new employee with 0 experience to district manager of 25 years, so.
Well, you could take a reduction in pay, right?
So Rhonda did,
Yeah.
Rhonda volunteered,
Oh.
so I'm sure your $80 salary will
Oh,
be very
yeah.
close. Um,
Actually, I was gonna ask for an increase. No.
they do have that all broken down
I was just curious.
if you would like to see it.
Yeah.
That would be confidential.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you would like to see that.
So you got a cost of 5% built in?
Right now, and really it's to get us to that 50th percentile. The fact that we are changing job descriptions, probably gonna be moving some people around once those are out, everybody's, you know, put their name in the hat for those jobs that are being created. So it's just, we just wanted to have that somewhat, decent percentage to distribute across the board. Like, sorry, based on the job description, so. It was presented at 5% per employee, but it's not necessarily where they're gonna fall in.
Okay. So you're thinking some may be a 4 and some may be a 6, depending on how the organization.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, try to
Okay.
get them in that range, right?
Yeah, trying to get them right in that sweet spot, so we're competitive yet, you know, we're not overpaying anybody.
And that's aside from the incentive.
Correct.
Right.
And I know last budget hearing, we had talked about the increase that we got and that this potentially a performance increase, as a bonus that we would be able to do later on in the year. So that's why we have that in there as well.
Okay, so I think this is something that will bear further conversation because that sounds like a good way to be doing, and you would know more. I will have to hear more
Yeah,
details, but,
definitely.
because what I'm concerned about after hearing that explanation, I was thinking of 5% across the board. That's what you were asking for. Do you anticipate that because of a reorganization and people doing whatnot, that somebody would get a 0% cost of living increase because they would be topped out of that pay band?
Potentially.
Okay,
Yeah, we just wanted to have the funds there so that we can, you know, have the money available to move people where they need to be.
okay. Legal question. I don't know. Does anybody know then? That's a hiring decision if there are new job positions.
Mhm.
Now you are interviewing into those job positions.
They need to be posted and there needs to be a competitive internal at least hiring process for new positions unless it is part of a established career progression where person is just being promoted into a position as part of the career progression.
As far as I know, we don't have an established career progression.
I agree.
Okay, so everybody will have to do, these things will be open competitive.
At least
Internally,
internally.
yes.
Yep.
Yes,
And you do not need to post externally.
okay. I don't know what the timeline will be on that. We may have some competitive and some not, I'm assuming. But given the way our timeline is going, by the time we shake that all out and figure out and then establish the pay bands where everybody is, I'm concerned that we'll make the time to be here. Is there any? Let's discuss it. I will get it together. Maybe we can nail some of this down on Friday and then.
Is there additional, costs also associated for like, you know, tuition assistance and stuff like that. It's also factored into, employees benefits,
We do offer that here, yes.
and we budget for that too.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a rate, or how do you do that?
It's in the handbook, what is it?
Yeah, it's presented in the handbook. It used to be, $1,500 per year. Potential reimbursement, that was, number was based off. I want to say back then it was 2 courses per year. I like Red Rocks that does industry specific, courses for water distribution.
Certifications, some of the certifications and stuff like that.
Exactly, and then, in the handbook that we presented, for the compliance and updates, we changed that to 3,000 more accurate reflect what the classes are costing these days. This is a pretty old policy.
Okay, so those costs are pretty much, you figure that's fixed, is that right?
I think it can be revisited every year, but that is the cap.
That's your cap.
That's the cap that we are presenting in the handbook right now.
Mhm.
But I will say that hasn't been utilized in recent years.
And it's in line with like job specific courses that they would be available to take for distribution and collection.
I would think so. Okay.
Are the employees somewhat aware of a possible reorg? And if they are, what's your take on their feelings about it? Is it something of interest?
It's, I believe, yes, it's definitely, I think there's a bit of, I'm not gonna say anxiety, but I think the staff is ready for it to kind of take place, take shape, get those new roles in place and hit the ground running. So that's,
Potential opportunity.
It's just hard to budget when that's not set. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I am not, totally happy with the performance bonus pool. So I would like to advocate for not having that. I would rather see base building salary percentages. If we can do that in there too. But that would come out, after, before, after, I don't know when we do that, but I think we should look at that again.
yeah, we could do that on Friday as well.
What time do you on Friday?
Roger and I had been meeting with Josh, he volunteered a little while ago, when we first started doing, staff discussions. So he has been doing, he's been our person on that. Unless you would like to take over, anybody?
I'm looking for any more.
Right,
No.
okay. I'm sure, yeah, Roger or I would pass that on. The contract labor and traffic controller things, who's doing that stuff now? I'm not understanding, we shouldn't fall down staff with, we have to be doing it now.
Right now, we do subcontract that out, but coordinating all of
The
that,
traffic
yes.
specifically, okay,
Yeah, but as far as the miscellaneous work, we're having other companies come help with valves and hydrants while we're doing them. Yeah, what should direct your question.
yeah, it was both, I didn't know what it was, what that was referring to, so it would be things like the routine, like we did for the meter replacement, or a lot of big bulk things.
Yeah. Things that we don't have necessarily the staff or time to complete.
Okay. What is that looking, is it hydrant specifically?
So right now, between all of our routine maintenance that we perform and emergencies that arise, we do have some larger valves, things like that, we are trying to get replaced.
Mhm.
You know, they're not quite at the stage where they're a failure, but we, like any aging infrastructure, we are hoping to maybe supplement some of that work with some contract.
Can you throw some numbers at me for that kind of stuff too? How much it would cost, how much time savings what the staff is doing now, for the next time? Because part of Green Mountain's business model is that we sink a lot of money into capital. We do have, into the trucks, into all this equipment, because we are doing all of this ourselves. If we are going to move to an outsourced model, then we should be rethinking things like this bypass. And we should, you know,
Well,
So-
the pump is, the main focus on the pump is risk mitigation there, with some of our large outfall lines and things like that. If something fails to that level, you know, we don't have the equipment necessary to be able to help alleviate that issue. So it's just kind of a safeguard for the district. When raw sewage flows to the waters of the state, it becomes a big problem. So,
yeah,
trying to get a rental on that at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're looking at, I can't even envision, how long it would take to get something out deployed on site.
could you look into it, cause like, how many other districts have one of those?
I can look into that for sure.
Cause, I mean,
I'm just,
some districts don't even have employees, let alone the equipment, so
Right,
what would they
right.
be?
and I mean, with our staff level and the equipment that we already have and where we are, and the responses we like to have as far as response time for emergencies.
Mhm.
In my experience, it's more difficult when you are relying on other people, so.
I'm sure, and I'm sure it would be a risk mitigation factor, I'm just wondering if, I think most people do rely on the rentals and having the emergency service people, so I wonder what the cost differential is.
Yeah, I think Jim, he did get the case study to me late this afternoon, so I can definitely pass that along, but I think to be able to handle, say, a 24-inch main burning through Addenbrook Park or something like that, we're looking at about $800 a day rental.
Okay.
On something like that, so.
Okay. I will take a look at it.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with those, like I said, the numbers. Because that's suggesting that there's a systematic problem here that we either, if we're getting bogged down because we have so many repairs, we need more people, or we're switching models, or it's just a half and half, but I would like to know where we are at, a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
The lobbyist, I'm not making any progress on that, so I don't know that we need to keep that in there. We can keep it as a maybe, but like I said, I'm not making any progress there. So I don't know that, I can't, at this point, spend it. Can leave it in there as a placeholder in case something else comes up, but I'm not seeing that we're doing
Well,
it.
of course, you can always have something in your budget, just not spend it. I mean,
Yeah,
you can have leftovers.
Okay,
we're gonna need a lobbyist somewhere down the road.
Well, that's what happened last year, so.
all right, so you're more comfortable keeping it in there?
Yeah.
The legal fees, I think it's we have more legal action coming, we may need to increase that to 500? It's at 350 now?
So 350, that was my best guess a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I think it would be prudent to increase.
Can we do 500 in there? No,
And that's where,
Just, as if that is gonna change service fees, adjusting that, so just a heads up.
yes. Okay, I think that's all I have. Oh, those long-term investments. Anybody interested in looking at those? Can you bring us some possibilities?
Yeah, I can bring some rates. Do you want that for November? Cause I know they are planning on doing another cut in December. So if I can get it together for you. Suggest November.
That would be great, if you
Just
can.
try to get something in there.
All the other numbers that you're playing.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
can.
I'll see what I can get.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I have, to sum up, kind of like the budget. Looking good, legal goes up to 500, you're bringing in long-term, we're going with scenario C. And we'll do some more staff discussions and maybe play with those numbers for the next version as well. Good,
Perfect. So, and then just one more clarification. Scenario C is $10 a month, $20 per bill.
yes,
Okay, just want to go. extra.
with nothing in the rates,
Right, rates stay with what was presented today.
yes.
Well, no, $10, I understood where that was. You say $10 and then $20 what?
So residential customers have a 5 monthly bill,
I want to, yeah.
so $10 per month would be $20.
Oh,
on the bill.
$20 per bill, okay.
Okay,
$10 a month, okay, gotcha. Another way of looking at it is like $60 a year,
Well,
or maybe,
$20 a year.
okay. Or $300 and some dollars per decade, whatever. I'm with you.
and the business cases that I will look at.
Yep.
Did anybody else need additional information for anything?
But just to clarify, we'll be talking about tap fees here pretty shortly.
Would you like to, could you
We need to do it before the end of the year,
do an
right?
inflation adjusted tap fee?
We can look into what
If there is
inflation
something.
would be, on that number, with the, construction index number onto that.
That would be
And
good.
this would ordinarily be the time to do that, right?
Free
Yeah,
carry.
that's right.
Yeah, rates and fees here, and as part of the budget process.
Okay, that's
And
right.
then as far as, notices, Dylan, since it's been presented, we can now do our budget notice.
Yep.
And then that just goes on, that gets.
So the budget,
publication.
budget is published, yeah, no time on publication, but the rates and fees is 30 days in advance. It doesn't, rates and fees doesn't have to be published, has to be noticed.
On our website.
Yeah.
Okay, and then would we be comfortable with saying the December meeting will be the, budget hearing, pre-hearing?
Yes.
Perfect.
Good.
That's all I need, and then we're just going forward with the November regular meeting, no special meeting.
Good, yeah, I think so.
So
Good.
far, yeah.
Okay. And I also wanted to say, make a note for that, so that it would be the December hearing. And add, I'll make a note too, but add a Q&A session noted on the agenda for that hearing for public, so that Director Griffin doesn't have to ask questions out of the agenda again.
Well, I'll just do it just because.
Yeah, I know. Then we could have a thing, we could have a time. Okay, good. All right. This is feeling long now, 7:30. We've been done by now in previous months. Thank you very much for all of the information and for being here in person, everybody. Now we can move on to the manager's report.
Alrighty, so as usual, our first slide is just our ongoing annual maintenance with our valves, hydrants, sewers, keep everything moving around, operating in good order. We did have 2 main breaks in September, and we're currently at 14 for the year, so we're tracking well as far as kind of an average that we've had over the last probably 15, 20 years. One of them was on Baltic Drive, which is one street over from part of our, dirt project. The break over there was due to corrosion, so, targeting those streets that, Sam had up on that GIS, this is part of that project, so. We are in the right area. Second one was on West New Mexico Place and Valentine Street, which is on a street that we are replacing. That's actually where the contractor's moving next, so, but also in the right spot over there, so. One valve blew on us as well from 1960 over by our red pump station on Virginia Place. The guys replaced that valve there, so pipe looks good. Valve, not so much, so that's, I'd like to replace that valve and. Yeah,
Josh, was there that kind of record keeping back then that you know it was 1960?
yes, well,
I'm just
We
curious.
did actually verify it by looking at the stamp on the valve of this. from
Oh,
19
that
it was
helps too.
1960.
So we do a lot of aging based on development of properties and date stamped on hydrants if they're original hydrants.
And how does our record keeping today compare? Pretty extensive.
Extremely.
Okay.
It's not quite real time, but if somebody's out maintaining a fire hydrant and he completes that task, it updates the system and the person, as soon as it refreshes, they can see exactly what they just performed. So we have a lot of data exporting on our fingertips.
What kind of system is that kept in? Do you have some kind of accounting system based on maintenance? Or
It's,
just generic?
It's a maintenance asset program, so, it's all centered around our assets and customers. So we can, any things we have to do at customer service, we can track all that in there as well. So if they need the water shut off for an emergency, we have that history. The customer calls in that, wants to know anything about their properties.
Good.
Yeah. And legacy records were on paper, but they've been scanned, and so we have access to quite a bit of information. Next up is Denver Water. Denver Water reached out to us back in July. They have some valves they need to replace on their main pump station down here at Jewel in Utah. Would have been nice to know that, back in 2023, but with that being said, we had to rent a backup generator. I wanted to make sure that if there's any sort of power disruption or anything like that, we have our main zone being fed from our main pump station. It's gonna be, it's gonna have backup standby power. So if something were to come up with Xcel Energy, we can continue to keep the tanks moving. That's supposed to take 3 to 4 weeks. So that's gonna, it's an additional cost that we have to incur, but we are planning ahead with stuff like that, so. Any questions there?
If it's their pumps, why are we incurring the cost? Or their valves, I mean.
Well, they normally they have a pump station down the street here that feeds our main tanks that we disperse to our elevated tanks, and everything down below gravity. That's one point of entry. We have another point of entry on the other side of the district, but it's just really cost of doing business. 99.9% of the time they're pumping to us out of that facility, but when they need to do maintenance, stuff like that, we have the ability to supply ourselves.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. Via the other facilities, so. We did, on the staff piece, we did hire 2 new entry-level employees that replaced the retired folks. We did have 1 employee resign in September. Just felt like he wasn't making enough money, and he changed industries, so that was a position we hope to keep, but we're now short 1 guy. I'm hoping to be able to backfill that position, so I'm gonna request.
Do you know what industry you went to?
Trash hauling.
That pays better.
Yeah, for like a Class B driver's license, they're in need of drivers, so.
I had 2 people in my neighborhood, both trash guys, leave trash because they couldn't make enough money.
Yeah,
So people are moving,
Well, tell them the water district's hiring.
yeah.
but they paid more for the trash than the water district. That's what he just said.
I mean, obviously, based on experience and with where we're at right now with our budget for 2024, not having staff be full for most of the year, some of the senior guys retiring, we have room for if somebody that comes along that's got good experience that we could just throw right into the mix, that would be ideal as well. So
Yeah.
I'm asking the board tonight if I can go ahead and backfill that position.
Get it posted multiple
It's,
places?
it's up right now. I never took it down, but I haven't offered anybody any sort of position.
Excuse me.
Okay, is that what you're asking for? Do you have applicants then?
It's out there. It's been a little quiet recently. I don't know if I need to go in and I don't know if some of these online places kind of bury your job posting or not, so.
I'd apply, but I'm too lazy.
No, I mean, but you have a pay band that you're working within?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was kind of like the previous,
Yeah.
or are you reevaluating? Okay.
Do you put these out to like monster.com?
It's on Indeed, it's on LinkedIn, it's on our website, it's on,
I'm just curious.
yeah, on, some of the places like Red Rocks Community College have moved on to, places like Monster, and they have a pretty hefty fee
Oh, yeah.
to list on their job board now, so. Indeed's been actually pretty decent as far as, the right people applying. We've got it tailored pretty well to not pick up every person looking for a maintenance type job, so.
But you wouldn't normally come to us to fill an entry-level position.
Well, that's the way it's set up now is any hiring is under board approval, so.
I lost track of that. That's the case.
Yeah,
Well, we
Well-
approve all hires. I think that's a management.
well, right now it's set to where I'm asking the board for permission to make the hire and then
Then you take it from there.
Yeah, I moved that he be authorized to make that hire.
He does already. He's asking.
He needs a motion. He needs our approval to do that, apparently.
Do you? Need a motion right now?
if
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
No, I did back when it was established position with an established pay band, but if you
Yeah.
need variance, just no.
Yep, great.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous approval. And I did not say, that was Director Wendell made a motion and Director Rickman second. Did you notate? I don't take it. Okay, good.
onto development reviews, we did have the 9/24 special meeting with, the board's Q&A with the, environmental experts. I thought a lot of good information came out of that meeting. With that being said, the beginning stages of drafting a development agreement have, started with Dylan, environmental attorneys that we hired, Holland and Hart, and,
We'll get more into that later during.
By the way, I noticed they're watching the meeting.
They're here for the executive session.
Ooh.
On our
Oh,
council.
Good.
Fletcher Miller is getting close.
Can I-
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Should I not ask then, based on the tri-hybrid board recommendations? Meaning, but you're drafting a development agreement, are you not doing the additional studies first?
That's probably best for executive session.
Okay. Thank you. Fletcher Miller.
They are getting very close, wrapping up some of the easement language, due to the proximity of the Federal Center property. Denver Water is, requiring the clean corridor easement. Their geotechnical report didn't have any sort of, testing, environmental testing done in that report, so I think they just wrapped up, soil vapor sampling, so.
Who is they? Fletcher Miller?
Fletcher Miller's, geotechnical people, yeah. So once their plans are set, just like any other, plans that will come to the board for sign off, so. 12364 West Alameda Parkway, which is right behind the Starbucks. They have requested water and sewer capacity studies. They're proposing like a 320 unit, 2 buildings, combined total of 320 units. They,
So apparently scraping whatever's there, I don't remember what.
yeah, right now it's where Green Mountain Sports used to be.
Oh, that's right.
And I think it's, there's like a dance studio or a music center, I think, in that strip. And then the other one is, there's a church, like a taekwondo center or something like that in there.
So take out the church.
Oh, yep, both of those buildings and the First Bank, no, not First, the US Bank, yeah, the US Bank is all part of
That's
that.
going too.
Oh, that's-
Where's this at again? 120?
Right behind the Exxon Mobil and Starbucks on Alameda and Center, next to Vitamin Cottage.
Or up the
Oh, okay,
access
gotcha.
road.
Gotcha, okay.
Where the theater used to be decades ago.
Yep.
Mountain Man Theater.
So this would be a huge increase in capacity.
Yeah.
Compared to what was there.
Correct, yeah. Change of use, the whole 9 yards. We did deliver the water and sewer availability forms for them with our language on there, like any other potential project is.
Can you send me a copy of one of those? I'd like to see what it looks like these
Yeah.
days.
And I'd take one as well.
Make it 3.
All right.
Send the whole board.
Oh, board.
I received a request, a couple days ago from a potential buyer of Glennon Heights Elementary property. It is being dispositioned. It is on their website. I did attach a slide here that just kind of shows their decision-making process for dispositioning the property. And I believe right now they're somewhere in the second row. They've received some submissions from potential buyers, so. Just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Is it okay to tell who those buyers might be?
I,
Is that legal?
I don't think that we know.
I
Oh,
don't think.
you don't know?
They're not submissions to us.
Oh, I thought it was to us.
No, to the city. So I just thought I'd bring that to everybody's attention.
So speaking of the city, but backing up to 12364 West Alameda. When somebody comes to us for 320 units like that, do they already have some kind of go-ahead from the city of Lakewood to change the density and the? Yeah, so that's all done already? Okay. Apparently a complete different
Yeah,
zone.
so what they'll have to do, as far as Green Mountain is concerned right now, is set up an account where they'll deposit funds that we'll withdraw from to pay for any of the studies that are required.
And we do make it clear to them, even though they put the funds in and we do spend it, that's still no guarantee that they get the service.
Correct.
Because we've had problems with people in the past.
Correct. Infrastructure replacement projects. The 2024 IRP plan is moving along, Coors in front of, what's the school right there on Coors?
Rooney Ranch.
Rooney Ranch, thank you. Rooney Ranch is complete, Warren's complete, they're wrapping up Atlantic Avenue, they're probably have a few services left to transfer there.
Everything's transferred over, it's just
Okay, so paving will commence. They'll be moving down to Valentine in New Mexico Place to start laying out tap water over there, so. For what is available to them, they're moving along. There were some time constraints, some issues with, permitting, things like that. We elected to remove a couple of the streets from their project so that we didn't have any budget carryover from this project, and those will be added into the 2025 project.
How are you removing them from the list and not having budget carryover? Are you still spending money?
Technically, yes, but not in 2024.
No, so they're gonna be rolled into the projects that are bidded next year.
Yeah,
So they're removed from this
it's
contract.
gonna be rebid.
And it'll be rebid.
Okay,
That's why it's not.
but
carried over.
we should have extra funds left
Yes,
from that.
right, for this year.
Yeah, I think you.
Yeah, we didn't, because of the type of replacement we're doing with the remove and replace, getting into November, December, they just they came to us and said they wouldn't be able to complete it, and one of the provisions in the contract documents is we can remove those from them, and they agreed, so.
Okay.
It worked out for everybody. And again, all affected customers on the street are gonna have advance warning for, when they start moving equipment to the area, any sort of service interruptions, things like that, so. My last slide, my last point on the slide has changed. Literally as soon as this was submitted, Lakewood sent over their comments for the review, so. I have those back with Respect Engineering, so they're gonna address those comments and we can resubmit. I expect to have at some point by the end of this week, a cost estimate from Respect on what it's gonna cost to complete this project, so. But right now, as a placeholder, we put in the number that we had allotted for this project from last year's.
It is a long time coming, cost estimate.
Yeah, it's a very difficult job. So. But, yeah, that's all I got.
Excellent, thank
Any
you.
additional questions?
What does it look like? Thank you very much.
I do have one question,
Yes, sir.
and it's backing up, but when you said about the federal center, you're working on something.
Probably a question better saved.
That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna save it for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right. Well, thank you all.
Thanks, Josh.
In directors matters, I see an employee handbook update and review. Everybody have a chance to look at that. Any questions? Does that need a formal motion? I guess so.
Well. Want a presentation or?
Not really.
I think, is it finished? It's finished, yeah, just motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Director Little.
Moving right along.
Yeah, any discussion, questions while we have everybody in the room? All right, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Great. Thank you all for your hard work on the little discussed employee handbook.
I.
And then is there a motion for changing the regular meeting time?
I move that we change the regular meeting time to 18:30, second Tuesday of each month.
Second.
Director Wendell motions, Director Rickman seconds. Do we need to do any additional legal work for that? I thought that had implications.
You'll need to update the transparency notice and the postings, but otherwise it's
Change
just,
the internet.
well, and probably we'll want to consider at the end of the year, whether you want to make that effective for next year and just do the end of year or the beginning of year resolution to reflect that.
Okay,
But it's
you're nodding.
pretty administrative.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Unanimous approval. Great. All right, directors' matters are closed. Do we have a general legal update? Thank you.
Not really. You've handled, your obligations for the budget and there are not any litigation updates that are not going to be addressed in executive session.
I lost track of, and I could ask later, but I lost track of the Timmons case that John is.
So in the Timmons case, Ms. Timmons sued the district countersued for essentially malpractice. And today was the deadline for her attorneys to answer our counterclaim. So they filed that about 5 p.m. and I have not looked at it yet.
Okay.
But my partner John is conducting that litigation on your behalf and it's very, very preliminary.
Okay. Thank you. And I see the Boulder case still goes on.
Yeah, it's also very preliminary. You're represented by insurance counsel in that case, and they're defending it. It's in a preliminary procedure.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. We have a motion. I will make a motion to then go into executive session for legal advice on the Big Sky trial summary.
I'm requesting a 5-minute recess.
Can we do that after?
It's fine.
I'll
before
second the motion.
executive Session, yes, and Director Wendell seconds. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
I'll read my script and then we can take a break.
Thank you.
As the district's attorney, it's my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication, and therefore requesting that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. Time is now 8:01 p.m. Time is now 8:43, and we've resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is ended. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the Board of Directors, Litigation Counsel Mike Ogborn, and District Manager Josh Stanley. For the record, there was a bathroom break at the beginning of the executive session, during which there was minimal small talk about matters unrelated to the executive session. If anyone believes that that small talk constituted a substantial discussion of matters not discussed, please let me know.
No.
All right, next on the agenda is another executive session, so I will move to have that session for the environmental review and Fed Center Development legal advice. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Little seconds. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
All right, as the district's attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore requesting that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. Time is now 8:44, and I am requesting that the recording be turned off. As the time is now 10:09, and we have resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the Board of Directors, Environmental Counsel, and District Manager, and myself, General Counsel. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not discussed in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is any actions resulting from executive session. And without further instruction from the board, I will circulate the draft proposed implementation plan to the board, and I will investigate the matters discussed for consideration in the executive session and get you my findings. And we will work together to revise the proposal accordingly.
But you probably can't do that until after we have another meeting to discuss
Well,
direction,
we can
maybe.
keep tweaking it.
Maybe your
Thank
letter
you.
that you're gonna send to them saying that we've received this letter, that we're not stalling and, or maybe, I don't know if you need to say anything like that.
Well, so that's a question. Would the board like me to respond to?
Yeah, my suggestion about respond to them, saying, we're looking into it, we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
I can do that.
not postponing anything, not, you know, whatever you said that you don't wanna say,
Sure. Yep.
but just something that we're just looking into it still, we're still investigating.
I can respond formally to the letter, yes.
Very good.
Okay, is there any new business? Plenty of old business. I wanted to ask Josh, and I know I asked you, but I didn't understand the answer. Can you tell me again about the fluoride in the water? Did you all see the EPA finding? The court case where
That we don't need fluoride
we
anymore.
don't need fluoride anymore? And it sounded like you were saying that we were meeting that we're meeting the maximum, we're not exceeding, but are they adding, and do you know if they will be, if Denver will stop treating with fluoride?
You know, I can't answer that question, but I did receive a response, from Denver Water on that topic, and I can forward that to you.
Great, thank you.
Well, just out of curiosity, why do we care? What's the significance of fluoride?
The lawsuit was very.
Helps you break your teeth when you eat electrician.
They
Seriously, what's
They
what?
add fluoride as a cavity preventer to drinking water.
Yeah, but they
Been
had
doing
it
that for 50 years.
They had it to toothpaste too.
Yeah,
So who cares?
builds, plaque up in your brain.
Oh, really? Maybe that explains it.
There you go, drink too much water.
Okay. Going to Coke.
Drink beer.
Drink beer, yeah.
So they,
So now they want to stop putting it in.
yes, it's been a fight for a little
Because
while,
now it's a health hazard.
yes.
Used to be just a tummy plot to control us, but all right, whatever.
It's like margarine and butter, you know, for a long time we couldn't eat butter. Now everybody eat margarine. Now it's back to butter again, so it's.
What do y'all think I would like to talk about, having executive sessions on separate meetings? These are getting long, and it does pose problems since we do that as a courtesy to the public so that we don't keep them on, and starting earlier is a problem. Can we do all on the fourth Tuesdays of the month, executive sessions as needed if we need to talk to lawyers, and I will just ping the lawyers. We would probably, that would, not this month, but I guess we could do this month.
Works for me.
6:30 start.
6:30 start.
I have no problem.
And then, if we need to, probably wouldn't need one for Big Sky in 2 weeks, I don't know, so I see who's available and what we need, and that would, maybe we could do 1 hour sessions and give the lawyers a more definite time. And not be too exhausted ourselves.
That's a good idea.
All right, well, I will start doing that and then asking them ahead of time and seeing what we need to do. Okay. That's all I have.
Go forth and do great things.
Go forth, let's say meeting's adjourned,
Oh.
10:14. Thank you, everyone.
You let 2 p.m. meeting. Yeah, right.